Hi there, I'm Luna Anna from lunalouiseanna.com. I'm a quantum hypnotherapist and healer, and as always, it's an honor for me to serve the empowerment, enlightenment, and equality of women on this planet. So today I've come with a video that's quite different for me and not something that I would normally do. And the video is going to be about there's a general election taking place here in the UK and lots of different elections and voting going on in the world. And I wanted to share a way in which you can consciously choose who to vote for. Because when a general election comes up, or any kind of voting process, it's very difficult for people to keep their egos in check and to not allow their mind and their ego to do the choosing for them. And I myself fell into this trap and went into a very unconscious process around who to vote for. And so I wanted to share a bit about, firstly, those unconscious ways that I was going into, because that might resonate with you or it might bring to light something for you. And if nothing else, it will give you a laugh about what I was doing and how much I've had to kind of rein myself in. And because I realized that I was being very unconscious and that that wasn't what I wanted to bring into this election process, I then changed and went back to a way in which I make all of my decisions in life. And it's a very simple way, a simple method that I use. And so I'm going to share that with you all so that you can use it too. And I'm going to share a few different ways because it's like a sliding scale depending on how intuitive you are and how used you are to working in conscious ways. So if you're not used to it, the first idea I give you might be like a bit too far-fetched for you and might not be suitable. And even the second one might not be, so then I'm going to give like a third way that you can do it where you're using more of your intuition and less of the mind. And therefore, the ego can hijack the mind and uses the mind sometimes to talk to us. So it's not the way to make decisions. Doesn't work. Trust me, tried and tested. It doesn't work. If you knew my past, you'd know why I'm saying that. It doesn't work. Don't use your mind and therefore your ego to make decisions. It doesn't work out well. So I'm going to begin by telling you my little story about my unconscious foray into how I was going to vote. So, and these are good examples, and you've probably seen them around you and maybe felt into them and thought, oh God, that doesn't feel good, you know. So what I was doing was I was thinking, well, I absolutely cannot stand that party. I'm not going to name any names with these parties because, I'm not looking to influence people's actual decision. I'm wanting to inspire them with how they choose their decision. Yeah, which is slightly different energy. So, I was like, I can't stand that party. So I'm going to vote for this party who I think are most likely to get that party out and for them not to be elected into power. And this can sometimes be called tactical voting. But if you just take a moment to really kind of feel into that, you will recognize that that's actually quite manipulative and coercive. And it's not rooted in my truth or in my authenticity. And if something isn't rooted in truth and authenticity, it's not worth pursuing. It's wrong. It's not right for you. And if it's not right for you, then it's not right for the planet as a whole. Okay. And actually, I'm a person that, has had an awful lot of coercion, manipulation, and abuse in her past. And so I'm a real advocate for not having any of that on the planet. So if I use, my vote in that manipulative, coercive way, trying to control the outcome, then I am adding more of that energy into the planet and into the whole of the energy of the election. So this is also about energy management, So rather than do that, I'm not going to do that because I don't want more energy of, coercion, manipulation, trying to control outcomes. I don't want more of that in the planet, and I don't want it to exist within the election. And I can only control my bit of that. So my bit is that's not going to be how I vote. Okay. Another way that I was being unconscious was I was going, well, I don't like any of them. They're all the same. So I'm not going to vote at all. Which, when you think about it, sounds a little bit like a child having a tantrum, doesn't it? And I guess, maybe my inner child was a bit because, I am hurting that there aren't the options and choices for, positive, healthy leadership. That does hurt me. It does upset me. So it was a good thing to acknowledge that within myself and take care of that bit of me that has that, because that's very valid and a very reasonable response to what's happening. But if you're, enlightened, then, an enlightened way of being in the world is that whatever is in front of you, whether you like it or not, you interact with it all in with as much love and kindness and care as you can possibly bring. So, in other words, you bring grace and you bring light to what the circumstances in front of you, whether you like them or not. So, yeah, I don't like what's in front of me because none of them are really floating my boat, if I'm totally honest. But that doesn't mean that I back out from it, because that's actually unconscious behavior. And that was actually coming from a wounded part of myself that was, like I say, tantruming because I wasn't getting my own way. Where's the healthy, enlightened leaders? God damn it, where are they? So, I've had to kind of say to myself, well, actually, this is what's here and now in front of me. So I am going to engage with it, and I'm going to do it in the most conscious, loving, and kind way that I can. Which again is partially why I'm doing this video, because I want to kind of help people to get into that mode and out of the unconscious modes that, quite rightfully turn up for us, because it does hurt. It does hurt that, the planet's in such a mess. It does hurt that our country's in a mess. It does hurt that we don't feel like we can trust our leaders. It does hurt that there's so much corruption around. That does hurt, and it's a good idea to recognize that and acknowledge it in yourself. And then other ways that I was being unconscious, and this one might surprise you. I was kind of going, right, well, where's the manifestos? Right, well, this one says they're going to do this. And I was going, oh, well, that sounds like it might be better for the planet, but I don't really necessarily like it for me. Yeah, unconscious. Bit of ego there. What about me? And it's okay because, we are voting for ourselves as well as voting for the country. And also, we have to remember that whatever happens here ripples out into the whole world. So this is big. It's big. Yeah. So I kind of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, but, one of them is going to be voted for by me. I am going to vote for one of them. So I have to find a way of consciously, intuitively voting. So what I've done is I've gone back to my old way of doing things, which is how I make decisions in my life. Now, I'm going to start off, because I told you I was going to do a sliding scale. So I'm going to start off with the most intuitive way. But if this is totally alien to you and you've never done this with anything before, then this probably isn't the best way for you. Although feel free to give it a go, because it's actually a really, really good skill to cultivate. Very good skill to cultivate. Okay. So first off, I'm just going to let you know that the mind is rooted in the past, and it uses everything, every benchmark, every comparison, every idea comes from the past, not from the future. And therefore, it can't predict the future. And it also can't predict what the best outcome is for us, ever. Okay. Not unless you have actually reached enlightenment and your heart and your mind, you've really realized and embodied that they're one and the same. Yeah. If you think, "What's she on about?" then that's not you. Okay? And it isn't me yet, you know? It's improving all the time, but I'm not there yet. So what you want to do is you want to be using your body, not your mind, okay? So to do this, what you need to do is be in a calm and very regulated state, okay? So you might want to do this, depends what helps to calm you down and regulate yourself, maybe something that calms you down and helps to regulate yourself is exercise. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's getting a shower, maybe it's cuddling your dog or your cat or something like that, that really kind of gets you into your heart space and something that kind of clears the decks in your mind. So what you want to do is do that, yeah. And then you just bring your attention. So you bring in your awareness. So it's not the same as being stuck in your mind and trying to use logic to work things out. And that needs to be put to rest in order to do this successfully. Okay. So you go into your body and you really want to be, by saying going into your body, I mean, I want all of your awareness in the sensations in your body. Okay. And if you're somebody that's frightened of emotions or often feels overwhelmed by emotions, then again, this won't be for you, but it's a good skill to cultivate. So you can maybe use this as a practice run. Yeah. So you bring to mind one party and you just feel into your body without engaging your brain. So I don't want your mind to be telling you, oh, that's the one I hate, so they're going to be awful. Because that will instruct your body, you see. So you just literally, and what you're really doing is you're feeling into a forward momentum of the timeline ahead if you vote for them. Okay. So, what is the timeline ahead if you vote for them? Again, not what you think they're going to do, not do, how you think it's going to turn out. All for gone in your body, what you immediately feel. And that, whatever you immediately feel, is what is most likely to be the outcome if you vote for you, if you vote for them. So you might even want to make notes, You move on, you do it with the next party, you do it with the next party, you do it with the next party. And you might need to kind of regulate yourself and calm down in between. So you might even need to do this, over a couple of days if this is new to you. And again, whatever you get, the sensation in your body is the preview for what the most likely outcome is from choosing that as a timeline. And it's very interesting. I got some very interesting results when I did it, ranging from absolute mayhem, chaos, to a slightly slowed down chaos, to a bit naive, not sure about that. And yet, real mass rise of hate and oppression. So, some of those, some of them, of course, were very obviously like, oh God, no, I won't be voting for that. I don't vote for that feeling. So just give it a try anyway, and you could use this for anything in your life. So, say you need to decide whether to take a new job or not, just bring it in. Just bring it in. So it's your awareness that you're just placing your awareness on it. So it's not, "Ooh, what about this? What about that? What does my mind say?" It's projecting your awareness onto it with a forward momentum. And then what do you feel in your body? So if it feels horrendous in your body, you're going to go, oh, actually, that job isn't for me. Even if on paper it's saying you're going to get much better pay, much better conditions, more holidays, and it's nearer. I don't have to commute as far. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Because if you feel something bad in your body, it just means that the end outcome is going to be that's what you're going to feel at the end of it. Okay. So that's a nice little way of predicting things and working out the best route for you to take. Now, if that doesn't work for you, because that's a little bit too, oh my God, I don't know if I can do that yet, because it is a skill that you need to kind of cultivate and practice. It's taken me a while. And even now, I struggle with some things. The next kind of intuitive way that you can do it is you can journal. Yeah. So journaling is just having, a bit of paper, a pen, pencil, whatever you need just to write stuff down. Again, you want to be in the calm, regulated state when you do this. So whether that's breath work, meditation, yoga, cuddling your cat, your dog, whatever calms you down and makes you feel at peace, do that. Maybe you need to be in nature to do it. Take the pen and paper with you, whatever. Yeah, whatever calms you down, do that. And you just get your pen and paper, you set a very clear intention, and you always speak the intention out loud. So you're going to say something like, I'm going to journal with my highest self, and my highest self is going to give me the most likely outcomes from each party if I vote for them. And you just go, first party, whatever, whoever they are. Da, 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 da. And again, not your mind, not, oh yeah, they said they were going to do that, so I'll just write that down. It's not that. It's very fast paced, and a lot of what you write will be nonsense and won't make sense, but you just keep going. And you do it for all of them. And then you kind of review. You can use your mind afterwards to help you review and go, oh yeah, that sounds terrible. Oh, that's an interesting one. I wonder what that means. And, and then you discern from there which one you think is going to have the best outcome for you. And that's the one that you vote for. Yeah. And again, a more enlightened way to do it is which one is going to be the best for the world, not just for you. That's fifth dimensional. So if you want to go fifth dimensional with this, you want to go 5D with it, you do those things, but for the world, not just yourself. Okay, if all of those are just like, oh, actually, I just can't do them. They're not me. I'm not there yet. They just don't feel nice to you, don't feel like something you'd want to do or you'd have time to do. Or maybe you wouldn't even have the motivation to do it. Then another thing that you can use in the UK that isn't really intuitive, but it's a little bit less mind-based, little bit less ego hijacking can go on. It's not foolproof, that can still happen, but it is helpful. There's a website, I'm not affiliated with this, by the way, but I better just let you know that, hey, I'm getting money for this. Is voteforpolicies.org. So that's a website that you can go on. And then you just pick the topics that are really close to your heart. So let's just, for an example, say that that's health, education, housing. Just pulled free, free typical things out there. And then it'll go, okay, so she's interested in health, education, and housing. So let's do health. So it'll go, and it'll give you statements from all the different parties from their manifesto relating to health, but it won't tell you whose is who. So you just read them, and the one that resonates the most with you is the one that you select, and you do it for all the different topics. And then at the end, only at the end, does it tell you which party you chose the most of, and then that's who you should vote for. So I hope that helps. Another little tip, but this isn't really for, I wouldn't use this for who to vote for, but maybe just to have a little bit of awareness around it. There's a lot in names, so there's power in words. So you want to kind of like be looking at, the name of the party, but not just kind of like, oh, I know what that means, because again, that's mind-based. You want to be feeling into it, because some of them, shall we say, fresher and newer and more vibrant than others. Some of them don't feel so nice. Yeah. Their name suggests for you a little preview as well of what the timeline would be like. Yeah. So, it could be stagnant, stale, for example. Could be constricted, could be regurgitated. It could be, feel fresh, new. So you want to just kind of be feeling into, the different energies of the names as well, because they also give you a little preview for what you'll be getting. Okay, so I really hope that has helped. This is kind of like how to bring light into the voting process, how to do it consciously, and how to cultivate your intuition at the same time. So I hope that's helped. Once again, I'm Luna Anna from lunalouiseanna.com. I'm a quantum hypnotherapist and healer. So if you would like to have healing with me, you can go to my website and all the details for how to book that are there. Okay, so I wish everybody the very best of love and light for their voting process. And also, I'm praying for the highest timeline and best outcome for the whole of humanity for this election. And I'm sure you are too. Lots and lots of love. Thanks for being with me and thank you for watching. Bye.